Testing, testing, testing. How are we sounding today? Israel. Israel, how are we sounding? There we go. Let's get ready to start. This is Elvin Israel from RPK, Resurrection, Prophecy, and Kingdom. I'm one of the instructors at RPK. Um, let's get ready to get started in just a second. Give me. How you doing, brother Will? Let me just tag some of the other brothers in, and we're going to go over through when the Bible actually was fulfilled. It's going to be very educational, and please feel free to share the video and tag whomever that you would like to tag because there's a lot of different views in etc. When this conversation is discussed. A lot of false information out there. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to get rid of all of the false information and put everything in the right perspective. So this is RPK. This is our YouTube channel. You see, we only have like 50 subscribers. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. You find it by putting in the words, the letters RPK, and then the words Resurrection, Prophecy, and Kingdom. That's how you find us. So let me tag a few more people. Okay, we're gonna get ready to start. And y'all can tag as many people as you like. All right. Shalom, shalom, my brothers and sisters. This is Elvin Israel, one of the lead instructors at RPK, which stands for Resurrection, Prophecy, and Kingdom, where we concentrate on those three tenets of the Bible: resurrection, prophecy, and kingdom. And we do believe here at RPK that if you concentrate on those three tenets, you will actually understand the Bible as well as the commission, which we're supposed to be doing today under Christ. You see the RPK in the background. This is the logo. When you see the logo, automatically know the truth is coming. Um, on our YouTube channel, please click the subscribe, hit the bell, share, like the channel, and etc. Okay, so what are we going to go through today? Today, this is just a last minute lesson, and I realized that I haven't did a kingdom lesson about fulfillment yet. So today, okay. Oh yeah, we got an ice storm here in Mississippi area. So please, 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 bear with us throughout this whole thing. But what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about the fulfillment of every prophecy. And for some reason, people have this understanding on how we're living in the last days and how Christ is going to come back any minute, any day now, and he's going to set everything right, right? That's what he said. He's going to set everything right, and all the bad people are going to be destroyed, and all the good people are going to be still here, and we're going to be running around with balloons and cotton candy, sweet as gold. Let me see that Tootsie Roll and all that other stuff, right? So, it sounds good on paper, but we got to understand. Drop frames detected. Okay, my internet is messing up a little bit, but there's nothing I can do about it because we're under ice storm. So please just bear with me. But there's we got to understand it. We're learning from an American Western perspective, and our hope and praise and everything is pretty much different from the ancient Eastern hope and praise. So, what we're looking forward to and what we want to occur is not the same thing that they was looking forward to and they want to occur. So, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to go through just the scriptures. I'm going to use a little historical information as well as the scriptures, and we're going to see if we can actually show, without a shadow of a doubt, the true doctrine. Right? So, let's get here and let's get ready to start. Let's see here. And make sure y'all tag whoever that you guys want to tag. Okay. Okay. Sorry about this. Let me tag. All right, y'all. So we finna get ready to hit it right now on the fulfillment of the Bible. When was everything fulfilled? And what they have been teaching you all, which is kind of Western, modern day Roman Catholic doctrine compared to what the ancient Israelites actually knew. So I know you guys think the Bible hasn't been fulfilled. I know you think Christ is finna come back on the cloud any day, and he's finna take you and rescue you, and blah blah blah, this and that. Now we're finna actually learn how how the ancient Israelites viewed Scripture, and etc. No more. Sorry about that. No more Western ideology. If we're going to say we're the children of the book, right? We're going to have to understand what the book said, how the book is to be read, and how the book is to be taught. So we finna get ready to do it. So first thing first. Sorry about that. First thing first. Let's look at the prophecy about Christ's second return because this is where people usually start getting off. And shalom to everybody that's watching. This is when people usually start getting off about how the Bible works and etc. And they are in this fantasy world dealing with the Bible. They have made it spooky. They have turned it into Star Wars. They have turned it into something uh, of a sci-fi edition, and etc. So let's get it back how it was. So this starts the prophecy right here. And Jesus, and remember, y'all, words in context mean things. The audience, the original audience, not the people that's living thousands of years later in the future, but the original audience, it means stuff. So we're going to try to keep it in the rightful perspective. So here we go. And Jesus went out and departed from the temple. And his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. So notice you have the word temple here and temple here, right? You got the words temple here, temple here. Give me 1 second. Enter. So we have the words temple and temple here twice. So What are they talking about? The temple. What Jesus lived first century, right? Or whatever name you want to use. Yahweh Shai, Yahushua, Joshua, Yah, Yashai, Yeshua. Uh, any names that you want to use. That entity, that person, lived in the first century. And under that first century, the temple, yes, the original temple in Jerusalem was still standing, right? That temple was still standing. And Jesus said unto them, who was the them? See, you gotta actually know all of this stuff in order to understand what the Bible is teaching. And Jesus said unto them, who was the them? The disciples. Not me and you living thousands of years later, but in context, the them is the disciples. And Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? All these things. What are these things? The temple, right? The temple. The temple, right? The disciples came to show him the buildings of the temple. So the temple had different buildings and stuff inside of it, right? So now Jesus is looking at the same buildings that the disciple is showing him. He's not looking at nobody's skin because I know people want to say, well, the temple is Jesus' body and all of that stuff. This is not what that's talking about right here. That's talking about the literal temple. He came out of the temple, the disciples showed him the temples, right? And while they was looking at the temple, Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, who is the you right there, right? Is he talking to the people living 2,000 years in the future in America, or is he talking to the disciples? He's talking to the disciples. Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So, Christ just gave them a prophecy about the destruction of the temple. So, verse 1 and 2 is about the literal temple in Jerusalem in the first century. Now, this is when things start getting off. This is when things go awkward and go into left field. And this is when you have your teachers, right? This is when your teachers come in and they start teaching a new gospel because they don't like what the gospel say. So let's see what the gospel say. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us when these things, tell us when shall these things be? What things? What shall these things be? What things? Right here, there should not be left here one stone upon another. So the things that they're talking about is the destruction of the temple, right? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, right? The sign. What is the sign here? Let's look it up. Let's look up the sign here. Matthew 24 and 3. Sign. Samion. A presumed derivative of the base, whatever, G4591. An indication, especially ceremonially or supernaturally. A miracle, sign, a token, or a wonder, right? So this takes you back to more of a ceremonial event that was going to happen, aka the wedding feast, right? What is the sign? When is the ceremonial thing that's going to happen, right? Them coming forward to a ceremony, right? When is the sign of thy coming, right? The sign of thy coming, right? So let's look at the word coming right there. G3952. It's parousia, right? From the present participle of G3918. A, a being near, that is advent, often return, specifically of Christ to punish Jerusalem, right? Or finally the wicked, by implication, physical aspect, coming or presence, right? So it could be a physical aspect, or it could be a coming or a presence, right? So it could be physical, It could be spiritual, right? It could be a literal coming, or it could be his presence, which would be something more of him not having to be there literally, right? So let's see what it's talking about. And what should be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Because people think that the world is going to end, right? So once you look up the word world there, right? The word is aeon. Aeon is properly an age. By extension, perpetuity. What's that? Perpetuity. Also, past by implication, the world, specifically Jewish Messianic period, age, of course, eternal, forever, forevermore. So, in other words, he's asking, what does aeon means age? I know you guys have heard from aeon to aeon. That just means age. So they didn't think, the Jews did not teach the end of the planet. That will be cosmos. The word there will be cosmos, not aeon. So now, the end of the age. So they was looking at a specific time period in which things was going to come to uh, a certain point. Now let's look it up real fast, right? Let's go here. Let's look it up real fast. We're gonna go to Google. We're just gonna look up the meaning of, and I probably misspelled meaning. The meaning of, I did it again, of age, the in the Bible. Let's see if they can give us a good meaning of the word age with a quick Google reference. Age definition from the KJV. It says age, um, the whole duration of a being, whether animal, vegetable, or other kinds. As usual, age of man is 70 years. The age of a horse may be 20 or 30 years. The age of a tree for 400 years. That part of the duration of the being, which is between its beginning and any given time. What is the present age of a man on earth? Uh, let's see here. A certain period of human life by different state, the period of which a person is enabled by law to do certain acts for himself, or when he ceases to be controlled by parents or guardians, as in our country, both males and females are of age and 21 years old. So this would be pretty much what's going on um, in the with the mind of the Jews. The period when a person is enabled by law to do certain acts for himself. So you got the age of Moses, and then you got the new covenant age, right? But let's keep going on because there's more. Um, the time of life for conceiving a child, the children was delivered by a son. Look, a particular period of time as distinguished from others as the golden age, the age of iron, the age of heroes of chivalry. The person who lived at a particular period, hence a generation and a succession of generations, as ages yet unborn. You got the mystery here from the ages, and you got a century, the period of 100 years. So, age itself, right? It just represents like a time period, right? And then we're going to go right here for the Bible study tools one more time to show you guys, and then we're going to go back, okay? So, this is age definition, right? Used to denote the periods of a man's life, the maturity of life, the latter end of life, a generation of the human race, an indefinite in period, respect shown at age, and a blessing, a full reward of time. So here we go right here. Age, aeon, a period of time or a dispensation. So it is a period of time or dispensation. In the above sense, the word occurs only once in the King James Version. In the song as a transition or revolution or round of time. a period, an age, or generation of man's life. Almost invariable, translated generation or generations, right? So now, the word age is just a time period or a dispensation, right? So now, once we go back, let's go back. So here, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? But we know the word world right there is aeon, which means age. So they was looking for the time period of a specific ending when a new law was going to come into place, aka the new covenant. Once again, the new covenant was everlasting. It had no end time because everlasting cannot end. If you have eternal life, everlasting life, you can never die. This is what Christ said. Those who have eternal life can never die. So they would never have an end of life. So the only thing that could end would be the age. Sorry, the old covenant, not the new covenant. So now we have got it right there. And Jesus answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. See, this is the problem right here. When people continue reading Matthew 24, right? Once they get to verses 3 and down, they just automatically forget about the context in 1 and 2. The context was the destruction of the temple. The questions formulated by the disciples was events that uh, came around the destructions of the temple. But people don't want you to believe that, right? They want you to believe that this is about today's time because something similar is happening today. And if you know anything, we should know that similarity does not mean exact. So now, Christ gives them the signs, right? He answered these questions. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. So your question should be this, okay? What is Christ answering here? Is he answering when shall these things be? Is he answering the sign of his coming? Or is he answering the sign of the end of the age here? What is he answering? Or all of them? I would say he's answering when shall these things be? And then I would say he's going to answer later the sign of his coming. And then after that, the sign of the end of the age. Let's see here. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right? But the end is not yet. So they asked him about the end of the age. So now he's reflecting. When you hear of wars, now who was the ye? The ye is the disciples. When ye hear of wars and rumors of wars, these things must come to pass. So the wars and the rumors of wars should come to pass, right? See, when you hear of wars, so the wars was happening, and when you hear of rumors of wars, see, we do the same thing today. When we hear about wars coming, we say it's the end of the world, right? The world is ending, Jesus is coming back. But he's letting it be known when they was experiencing that. Give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. Hello. Oh man, then I'm in the middle of doing a little Bible lesson. Can I call you back? Yeah, I'm gonna call you back. All right. So now, when you hear wars and rumors of wars, see that you be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So he's giving them signs, right? Signs of what? Signs of the destruction of the temple, or signs of his coming, or signs of the end of the world, or all of them. You can choose. And all these are the beginning of sorrows, right? Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted. You who? Whoever reading it are the disciples, right? And shall kill you. And you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. But you keep reading, and there shall be many false prophets shall arise and shall deceive many, right? But and this look, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all of the world for a witness unto all nations. Then shall the end come. So that's the answer to the end, right? The end of the age. The end of that age was going to come when the gospel of the kingdom was preached in all of the world, right? Let's look at the word world right there. Matthew 24:14. Let's look at the word world. World right there is akumene, right? Akumene. It's a feminine participle. It means land that is a terrain part of the globe, specifically the Roman Empire, earth, world. So once again, look at what the definition is. Because people want you to say, hey, the gospel of heaven went to every tribe on the planet earth. So into every person on the planet earth receives the gospel, then Christ can't come back yet. So brother, you and your full of preterism understanding is off. Well, we see here that the meaning of the word archumene, right? It was stood for world, the one they translated into world in English. It meant land, and what specific land? Specifically, the Roman Empire. See, Christ was born under the Roman Empire. The disciples lived under the Roman Empire. Paul went all throughout the Roman Empire preaching his message, right? So, for the people who think this to be about North America, you are so far off. It's about the Roman Empire, right? That's why he was born under the Roman Empire. So now, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. What is this echoing? Well, we can find this being echoed about Exodus. Um, they had to flee into the wilderness, which had the mountains, coming out of Egypt, right? This is supposed to take you into that understanding. And let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is on the field return back to take his clothes. And woe to those that are with child and to them that get suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So Christ is saying all of these things is going to be happening with inside Jerusalem, correct? And then if the army is coming, he's saying, do not try to save any of your belongings, but flee into the mountains. But now, let's explain whom Christ is, if you guys don't understand. Christ was a Jew, right? The Messiah came through in flesh in the body of an Israelite from the tribe of Judah. Christ being a Jew. And at this time period, there was no New Testament written, right? They only had the law, the prophets, sort of like the book of Enoch, Isaiah floating around, and etc. They had a few things from the Dead Sea Scroll community. But all in all, the Jews used the laws and the prophets. So now, what do you think Christ is doing here? What do you think Christ is doing? Where I am here to tell you that Christ is quoting from the prophets. They asked about the end of the age. They asked about his second coming and the destruction of the temple. So Christ is quoting from a prophet. But what prophet is Christ quoting from? Well, if you go up right here, back to verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. So he said, look at Daniel's prophecy about the abomination of desolation. So down here, what is he doing down here? When you get to verse number 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Woe and behold, guess who he's quoting from again? Guess throughout all of this information, right? Through all of these things Christ is saying, guess where he never left? out of Daniel. So now, let's show you, right? For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of this world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So, let's go to Daniel and see what Christ is talking about. So, you go to Daniel chapter 12. This is about that war, right? And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as was never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. So Christ said, Christ living under the Roman Empire. So let's go back to how Christ worded it. Under the Roman Empire. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. That's how Christ worded it. How did Daniel word it? There shall be a time of trouble, such as was never since there was a nation, even to that same time. So they're saying the same things, just different ways. So, as as Daniel keep going on, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. Right? So now let's go back to what Christ was saying. You go to Matthew 24. Remember, Christ responded, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all of the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Right? So that's very important. So once you go to verse 22, because all this is finna be make sense. How you doing, brother Demetrius? How you doing? I keep running these people off when I tell them that the Bible has been fulfilled. So now I'm doing a lesson on the RPK channel to prove that the Bible has been fulfilled, because we don't have one on that one yet. So, but now he said, and except those days shall be shortened, there should be no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened, right? So then we're going to go down, right? Because he was talking about the great tribulation, right? Which it would be Jacob's trouble. That's what Daniel's talking about, Jacob's trouble. But Christ put Jacob's trouble around them fleeing into the mountains, around the destruction of Jerusalem, right? So now let's keep going. Verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give off her light. Sorry about that. Let me close this. This had a bird try to fly in my window. He was listening to this great word, and he tried to fly in my window. So let me close that, because I'm not trying to fight birds today. But it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give off her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Right? So they asked him up here, what shall be the sign of thy coming? So the sign of his coming is the sun darkened, the moon not giving off her light, the stars shake, falling from heaven, and the powers of the heaven being shaken, right? That's the sign of his coming, right? That is the parousia. That's his presence. Once the sun be darkened, once the moon stop shining, once the stars fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven be shaken, that's the sign of the Son of Man coming in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. So now, notice, first they had to see the sign. And once they saw the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, then they was able to see him coming in the clouds, right? And then his angels came together all from the four winds, right? And then as you keep going on to verse 34, verily I say unto you, remember the disciples, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. So he said all these things, not some of them, but all of them. So you're looking at the generation that have all these things fulfilled. And then he said, heaven and earth shall pass away. So people want this to be literal. You don't know the parallelism that the Hebrews use. So Christ is using parallelism right now. I ask y'all to study Hebraic parallelism. When you study Hebraic parallelism, you realize that there's three different categories on classifying Hebraic parallelism. So what the category that Christ is using is when they say it one way and then they say the exact same thing another way. This is just Hebraic parallelism. They did it throughout the Old Testament. Why would Christ, being a Hebrew, stop doing it? So here he said, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. Earlier, what was he talking about passing away? The temple. The temple, he's talking about it being destroyed up here, and down here, he calls the temple heaven and earth. And we're going to prove all of this stuff in just a minute. So now, I'm here to tell you that Christ, from Matthew 24, right, what people want to be about today's time period, Christ got pretty much all of this information from Torah. He used the Song of Moses to explain this, and he also used the book of Daniel. He also used the book of Daniel. So now let's go into the book of Daniel and let's see what Christ was talking about, right? So we're going to go through some of the things that Christ said in Matthew 24 because people want it to be about today's time period. Meanwhile, Christ was talking about Jerusalem being destroyed by the Roman army in the first century. So let's go through the information and show you that this whole section, Matthew 24, starting at verse 1, going all the way down to heaven and earth passing away, verse 35, he was pulling from the book of Daniel. So let me show you. First of all, we have a prophecy about the temple being destroyed. And notice in verse 15, he told them to go back to Daniel the prophet, right? So, you got one right here. Temple being destroyed. Let's go to Daniel. Where did Daniel talk about the temple being destroyed? You go to Daniel chapter 9, starting in verse 24. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression. So he's talking about the end of the people and the end of the city of Jerusalem, right? So once you go down to verse 26, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city. Sorry about that. Shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. So you have Jerusalem being destroyed right there, and you got the sanctuary, which is where the temple is, being destroyed. So now we have one element, the temple being destroyed, right? You got the temple being destroyed. You got Christ quoting from Daniel about the temple being destroyed. So that's one element. So let's go back to Matthew 24 and look at other elements. So you got him prophesying about the temple. What else did he prophesy about? Let's see here. You should hear of wars and rumors of wars, right? So let's see here. Let's see if my okay, there we go. You should hear of wars and rumors of wars. Let's see where Christ got that from, right? You go back to Daniel chapter 9, verse 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. So now you have the war that Christ was talking about. You have that being prophesied in Daniel around the destruction of the temple. You got the destruction of the temple, and then you got the war. You got Christ talking about the destruction of the temple up here, And then you got him talking about wars yet, right? But the end is not yet, for nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, earthquakes and stuff right there, right? And many false prophets shall arise and deceive many, right? And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, then the end shall come. So now let's see if we can find that in Daniel. You go to Daniel chapter, is it, I believe, 7. So you got the false prophet, right? And then you got the gospel being spread. So let's see here. Let's see. Daniel 7 and 24. And the 10 horns and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise. And another shall arise after them. And he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High. And he shall wear out the saints of the Most High. So that's the war. And to think to change times and laws. So that's your false prophet right there, right? So that's your false prophet that Christ was talking about, dealing with the destruction of the temple. Woe and behold, that's in Daniel 7. That after the fourth beast, which would be Rome, but I don't think this is when the fourth beast was introduced. Yeah, well, let's see here. Daniel 7, and when was the fourth beast introduced? Right here, 7 and 8. So that happened during the fourth beast, and we know the fourth beast was the Roman Empire. So Christ is saying during their generation under the Roman Empire, all this stuff was going to happen, right? So you got the false Christ coming, right? You got the wars and rumors of wars. The iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Oh yeah, the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world. Then the end shall come. Where's Christ getting that from? You got Daniel chapter 12. Let's see here. 4. But O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Right? To the time of the end. What is Christ talking about? Matthew 24. Let's go there again. Matthew 24. What is Christ saying? This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. They're talking about the same end here. So now let's go back to Daniel. Remember, he said the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached, then the end shall come. You go back to Daniel 12. But Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So this knowledge right here, that is the gospel once you follow the way that Christ broke it down. So many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Christ said, when the gospel of the kingdom is taught throughout all the world, and we saw the word world there was Roman territory, then the end shall come. You got Daniel saying the end shall come after the knowledge is increased. See, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So he was to seal up the book until the time of the end. So you got it right there. So now let's go back to Matthew 24 again. What else can we find that Christ said? When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. So now, let's see where else Christ got that from. Where's this abomination of desolation spoken of? Well, you got Daniel chapter 9. Daniel 9 says, Daniel 9:26 right here, and the end thereof shall be with the flood, and to the end war, desolations are determined, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall call the sacrifice and oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate. So you got the abomination of desolation spoken of right there, even until the consummation, and that is determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So you got the overspreading of abominations that causes desolate right here, right? You got him saying until the end of the war, desolations are determined, right? And then once you go to Daniel chapter 11, right? Daniel 11, you have, let me see if we can find it. peaceably destroy the animals, shed them. Right here, 31. And the arm shall stand up to his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that make desolate. So you got the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel right there again. And then you go to Daniel 12 once again, and what else does they say about the abomination of desolation? 12 and 11. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that make desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. So according to Daniel, from the time that the daily sacrifice was taken away until the abomination of desolation set up was only 1,290 days. Not 1,290 years, not 10,000 years, not any other day, but it was a short time period. 1,290 days. That's like what, 3.5 years or so. So let's keep going. So that's the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, right? So let's go to Matthew 24. Then what happened? Then let those which in Judea flee into the mountains, right? For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And we already said this. This is what Daniel was talking about in Daniel 12:1. And there was a time of trouble, such as was never since there was a nation, even to that same time. So Christ is right on pulling all of his stuff out of Daniel. Christ is talking about the destruction of Jerusalem by the Roman army. We're going to show you that Daniel was talking about the same thing in just a minute, right? So now, where else do we have here? Now we got the coming of the Son of Man, right? Where people want to be literal, right? So let's see verse 29 first. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give off her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. So people tell you, look, when did that happen? When did the sun be darkened? When did the moon not give off her light? When was the stars falling from heaven? When was the powers of the heaven shaken? Okay, well, let's see if we can find something similar. Let's go to, is it Isaiah 13, maybe? This is about the burden of Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. So this is about Babylon being destroyed by the Medes. So let's look at some of this language real fast. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. So this is about the destruction, see, the burden of Babylon. So this is about Babylon being destroyed. Literal Babylon, not American Babylon, what people make America be, but this is literal Babylon. And he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. Hold on. So this happened when Babylon was destroyed by the Medes? So you mean to tell me that the stars of heaven and the constellation have failed before, and the sun was darkened before, and the moon was not giving off her light? This is Hebraic literature. This is apocalyptic language that the Hebrews used in order to explain the judgments that came from the Most High. It was so devastating. It was like the moon stopped shining. It was like the sun stopped shining. It was like the stars fell from heaven. It was like the constellations went out of whack. It was like a change in the cosmos. That's how much wrath the Most High brought upon a nation. So these things wasn't meant to be taken literal. This is just Hebraic language that they use to express the judgment of the Most High. So we see Isaiah doing this about Babylon. So when Christ does this about the destruction of Jerusalem, now you want it literal. When Isaiah did it, it was figurative. But now when Christ doing it, a same Jew, same Israelite, when Christ do it, you want it literal. Once again, when Isaiah did it, it was figurative. Wow, imagine how that works out in our community. But now, we're not even done with that, right? So that's the tribulation. That's the sun being dark, right? But now let's get into, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. So then you, being in America, right, in the Western world, when you think of someone coming, you think of someone physically going to where you are at, right? If I said, he's coming to me, that means he's physically heading my direction, right? That's the way that we look at it in America in the 21st century. But Christ is quoting from Daniel. He's using the same terminology from Daniel. He's not teaching he was coming to the earth. The Roman Catholic Church taught that. And now the people today is teaching that he was saying he was coming to earth. Let's see what Christ is saying. The Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Well, once we go back to Daniel, where he told them to look at Daniel 7, right? Look at what the Son of Man is doing. Daniel 7 and 13. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Wow. So, according to Daniel, the coming was going toward the temple. And look right here. And there was given him dominion and glory and the kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is the everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So, according to Daniel, when the Son of Man was coming, he was going to receive a kingdom. Once again, when the Son of Man was coming, he came to the Ancient of Days. There was given him dominion and glory and the kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. So, according to Daniel, that coming was going into the heavenly realm as a king. So now, when you get to Matthew 24, suddenly when you get to Matthew 24, when Christ used the same language, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, instead of them understanding that this is Christ's presence and he's going to get his kingdom, suddenly they make this same language say that he's coming to earth, planet earth, and everybody on planet earth is going to see him. Guys, if everybody on planet earth was going to see him, he would not need a sign. They would literally see him. Why would he need a sign or a representation that he's around when you can literally walk outside and see him? It doesn't make sense. Once again, he was quoting from Daniel. He's letting it be known the things that Daniel said was going to be fulfilled this generation. Everything Daniel said was being fulfilled his generation. So now look right here. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man, right? So now, verse 31. And he shall send his angel with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to another. Well, and behold, let's see where that came from in the book of Daniel. Well, first of all, let's see the four winds. Daniel 7 and uh, let's see here. 4 maybe? Nope. Right here, 2. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strolled upon the great sea. So you got the four winds introduced right there, like you had the four winds introduced by Christ. But now, what did Christ say? They coming with the angels are coming with the four winds, and they're going to gather everybody, right? So what's happening in Daniel chapter 12? During the time of the destruction, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. This is the gathering of the saints. They are raising up to be gathered. So Christ is sticking with Matthew 24, with Daniel about that last prophecy. But this is how Christ ended it, right? Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh or near. So he said, just like when you look at a fig tree and the branches get tender, and when you start seeing the leaves start forming on the fig tree, you know the season of summer is coming. So the sign that summer is coming is the fig tree getting tender and leaves start coming. So likewise, ye, disciples, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. So why would he tell the disciples when they should see those things, it is near, when he was talking to people 2,000 years later in America? Does that make sense to you? Does it make sense that he's talking to Americans right here? And then verse 34, he says it right here. Verily I say unto you, once again, the disciples, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. So Christ told them the things that Daniel spoke of and me getting my kingdom, all of that will be fulfilled this generation that I live in. So now, why I make the connection with Daniel and Matthew? Well, let's go to what you guys pretty much hate, history. Let's go to history, right? Let's go to history. And once again, y'all know I said I didn't prepare this lesson. It just came on a whim, right? Something that I wanted to do for the RPK channel to teach the fulfillment so we can have a fulfillment of the kingdom on our channel. And please share the video on your page. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe to it and like it. So now, let's go into a little history. Let's go into the antiquities, aka the history of the Jews. And let's see if we can pull some of this information from the history of the Jews, right? So let me try to find it real fast. Let me find it real fast. And like I said, I did not prepare this. It was just a thing that I wanted to do. So, it's not going to take me fast to find it. Let's go to Daniel. This is Antiquity of the Jews, right? We're going to start at Book 10, Chapter 10, Section 2. So, Antiquity of the Jews, Book 10, Chapter 10, Section 2. Well, we're going to go to Section 4, right? And then this is Josephus actually breaking down Josephus, first century Jew, first century historian, first century priest, first century Pharisee. Knew the culture, knew the oral traditions, right? Learned the Torah since he was 6 years old, all the way up into his eldership, right? Also, knew Hebrew, knew Aramaic, learned a little of the Greek language, and etc. So let's see what Josephus, a Jew, let's see how he felt about this prophecy of Daniel, right? And this is about the head of gold. I'm going to start right here. This is in section 4. The head of gold denotes these. And the kings of Babylon. So notice how he breaks it down. The kings of Babylon that have been before thee. But the two hands and arms signify this, that your government shall be dissolved by two kings, but another king that shall come from the west, armed with brass, shall destroy that government, and another government that shall be like unto it iron, shall be put an end to the power of the former, and shall have dominion over all the earth on account of the nature of iron, which is stronger than that of gold, of silver, and of brass. Daniel did also declare the meaning of the stone to the king, but I do not think it proper to relate. Hold on, let's see here. That's not what I was looking for. It might be on the next page. Let's see here. Daniel, that was not. Hold on, hold on, hold on. That wasn't it. Give me 1 second, y'all. I thought that was what I was looking for. Violent wind, iron. It's got to be somewhere close to this, though. Sorry. Book 10, chapter 11. So that's him breaking down the statue. So now let's go to book 10, chapter 11. My bad, y'all. I was looking at the wrong thing. So we got book 10, chapter 11, section 7. And then we will be on point. So now, here we go right here. I'm not going to read all this. All right, we're going to start right here. Let's see if we can highlight it. Not highlight it. Let's highlight it with yellow. And that should reign over the habitable earth for many years, and that from among them there shall arise a certain king that shall overcome our nation and their laws, and shall take away their political government, and shall spoil the temple, and forbid the sacrifice to be offered for 3 years' time. And indeed it should come and indeed it so came to pass that our nation suffered these things under Antiochus Epiphanes. This is why it's important to read the Apocrypha dealing with the Maccabees, right? According to Daniel's visions and what he wrote many years before they came to pass. Now look what he says. In the very same manner Daniel also wrote concerning the Roman government and that our country should be made desolate by them. So, according to Josephus, Daniel's prophecy about the country being made desolate was by the Greeks and Antiochus Epiphanes, and by later the Romans. The last ones to make the country desolate was going to be the Romans. So let's keep reading. All these things did this man leave in writing, as God had showed them to him, insomuch that such as read his prophecies and see how they have been fulfilled. You see that ED right there? They have been fulfilled. Would wonder at the honor wherewith God under Daniel and may thence discover how the uh, Epicureans are in error, who cast providence out of human life. But here, the point was to show you that you have a first century priest saying that the prophecies in Daniel had been fulfilled. The last prophecy was the Roman army destroying Jerusalem. So, when Christ was pulling from Daniel, and Christ said all things was going to be fulfilled their generation. You have a Jew who was not a Christian, who was not a follower of Christ. He was a Torah Tanakh following Jew. And he said that the prophecies of Daniel was fulfilled. So you can't come behind 2,000 years later and say, well, Christ's prophecy haven't been fulfilled yet, when you literally have a Jew telling you the prophecy that Christ pulled from, which was Daniel, that Christ marked and said, this is what I'm doing, what Daniel said was going to happen. I am fulfilling that. So, by default, if Daniel's prophecy had been fulfilled, Christ's prophecy had been fulfilled. You can't separate them. I know you want to, but you can't separate them. So now, let me break you off just a little bit more. Let's look at the War of the Jews now, right? So you go to the War of the Jews. So this is when Rome was getting ready to destroy Jerusalem. So you go to War of the Jews, book 6. chapter 5, and we're just going to read a little bit of it because you remember Christ said it was going to be many false prophets and etc. Right? So right here you can go. Let me see here. Let's see if we got anything about the false prophets. We're going to go to section 2, right? Section 2. So in section 2, this is what you have. Let's see, section 2, false. Let's see here. Let me make this a little bit bigger so I can see it too. Right here. Let me highlight it. Sorry, let me highlight this bad boy. Section 2, right here. Highlight. A false prophet was the occasion of these people's destruction, who had made a public proclamation in the city that very day that God commanded them to get up upon the temple and that there should receive miraculous signs of their deliverance. Now there was then a great number of false prophets suborned by the tyrants to oppose on the people who denounced this to them, that they should wait for deliverance from God, and this was in order to keep them from deserting, and that they might be buoyed up above fear and carried by such hopes. Now, remember Christ said at the time of the end, there's going to be many false Christs and false prophets, right? So we have a historian who lived in the first century. Remember, Christ said all this stuff is going to happen this generation, disciples, which was the generation that they lived in. Then you got people in America coming 2,000 years later who say, we're Israel. This is our book. But then they take everything in the book out of context and try to make it be about us in America instead of letting it be about our forefathers. So Christ told you their generation, which was the first century generation, was going to experience all of this. Now we have a first century historian who recorded all of this. And now you're going to have somebody come in later and say, yeah, it did happen, but nothing new under the sun, so it's going to happen again. Where does they say that in the Bible? Show me where that says that in the Bible. I'm going to show you where Josephus actually stops that right here. See? Now a man that is in adversity does easily comply with such promises. For when such a seducer makes him believe that he shall be delivered from those miseries which oppress him, then it is that the patient is full of hopes of such his deliverance. In other words, Josephus, who was using a little philosophy right there, was saying it's easy to trick people who's looking for hope, who's looking for redemption, who's looking for some type of deliverance, right? In other words, he's saying it was easy for them to believe the false prophets because the false prophets played upon their emotions. Remember, Christ told them when you see the army surrounding Jerusalem, flee into the mountains. The false prophet said, no, don't flee into the mountains. Stay here because God told us we will be delivered. And they all got slapped up into that captivity by the Roman army for listening to those false prophets. So, if it was possible, they would have even deceived the elect with those words. But they couldn't deceive the elect because the elect believed on Christ. But now, let's keep going. Let's keep going. This is what they don't tell you guys when they say, well, Christ didn't come. Okay? Christ didn't come and nobody's seen Christ. So how could the Bible be fulfilled and stuff? Let's look at some of these signs that happened first century, right? Let's look at these signs that was recorded in history, in our history, that happened first century about the destruction of Jerusalem that nobody ever brings up. They don't never bring this stuff up. Either they don't know, or they don't care to know, or they just don't want you to know. But they don't never bring it up. But I'm going to bring it up. So look at these signs. Thus were the miserable people persuaded by these deceivers, and such as belied God himself. while they did not attend nor give credit to the signs. So look, you remember the disciples was asking him about signs of the coming and stuff? He said they did not give credit to the signs that were so evident and did so plainly foretell their future desolation. So now, let's look at some of these signs. Thus, there was a star resembling a sword which stood over the city, and a comet that continued a whole year. Sign number one, Jerusalem was going to be destroyed. First century, they saw a star resembling a sword that stood over Jerusalem, and they saw a comet that continued the whole year. So imagine seeing a comet in place, standing still for a whole year. Imagine seeing a star that looked like a sword that stood over Jerusalem a whole year. But the Jews ignored it. So let's keep going on. What happened in the first century? Thus also before the Jews' rebellion, and before those commotions which preceded the war, when the people were come in great crowds to the feast of unleavened bread on the 8th day of the month Anticus, Nisan, and at the ninth hour of the night, so great a light shone round the altar and the holy house, that it appeared to be bright daytime, which lasted for half an hour. So now you have a half an hour time when at nighttime the temple, the altar inside of the temple lit up, and it looked like it was bright daylight inside of the temple, and it lasted half an hour. And look, this light seemed to be good, to be a good sign to the unskillful, but was so interpreted by the sacred scribes as to pretend those events that followed immediately upon it. So the scribes, right, the writers of the law, the Torah, they understood that this wasn't a good sign. They understood it, right? So let's keep going on. At the same festival also, a heifer, as she was led by the high priest to be sacrificed, brought forth a lamb in the midst of the temple. So now, in that same festival, right before, a year or so before Jerusalem was going to be destroyed, they brought the heifer in to sacrifice it. The high priest did. And what did that heifer do? What did that female cow do? She gave birth to a lamb. Gave birth to a lamb. These are real signs that happened first century. So we have a lamb, right? That came out of a cow, which resembled what? The Lamb of God, right? Letting it know that time is about time. The time is coming that we all reverence the Lamb of God. You guys are doing these oblations with these cows on this sacrificial system, but the Lamb is coming. Right there. Look what else. Moreover, the eastern gate of the inner court of the temple, which was of brass and vastly heavy, and had been difficulty shut by 20 men, and rested upon a basis armed with iron, and had bolts fastened very deep into the firm floor, which was there made of one entire stone, was seen to be open of its own accord about the sixth hour of the night. Now those that kept watch in the temple came hereupon running to the captain of the temple, and told him of it, who then came up thither, and not without great difficulty was able to shut the gate again. This also appeared to the vulgar to be a very happy prodigy, as if God did thereby open them the gate of happiness. You see how they said it? Oh man, this is great. That's symbolic to God, our Father, representing or opening the gate of happiness. But the men of learning, the people who had an eye to see, ears to hear, the real men, understood it, that the security of their holy house was dissolved of its own accord, and that the gate was opened for the advantage of the enemies. Let's keep going. So these publicly declared the signal foreshadowed the desolation that was coming upon them. Let's keep going. Beside these, a few days after that feast. So look how he's doing is during the feast time, right? So he's picking a time when all of the people were in Jerusalem to be gathered together. So this would be something that a lot of the Israelites would have experienced together. Once again, this would be something that a lot of the Israelites would have experienced together. No, the Most High, He didn't use a regular old day. He used days that was going to bring them together so they can understand what was happening, what the Christ came to do. He was proving to them that the Christ was who he said he was. But why come nobody ever go over these signs when they tell you the Bible hasn't been fulfilled? Meanwhile, history shows you that the Bible has been fulfilled, and it shows you the last prophecies that happened. But let's keep going. On the 1 and 20th day of the month, Artemisius, or Yar, a certain prodigious and incredible phenomenon appeared. I suppose the account of it would seem to be a fable, were it not related by those that saw it. So many people saw it. Tacitus, he got this actually in his annals dealing with the Romans also. And were not these events that follow it so considerable a nature as to deserve such signals? For before sun setting, chariots and troops of soldiers in their armor were seen running about among the clouds, and see, and other stuff surrounding of cities. So in the first century they saw the angelic army in armor running around the clouds, and they saw those same angelic armies enter the ground and start to surround the cities of Judea. Once again, for the people in the back who said that this stuff has not happened yet, right? The end haven't been yet. We're still waiting on Christ to return. Who's seen him? If Christ returned, who saw it? Tell me who saw it. Well, we have sightings here of angels running around clouds in armor. Why they have armor on? Ready to battle, right? And those same angels surrounded the cities in Judea. Moreover, at that feast, see, all of these things are happening around feasts and stuff. So now this is at the Feast of Pentecost, right? When the Holy Spirit was given, right? Moreover, well, not at the feast that the Holy Spirit was given, but it's the same feast like, Pentecost itself. Pentecost happened every year. Moreover, at that feast, which we call Pentecost, as the priests were going by night into the inner court of the temple, as their custom was to perform their sacred ministrations, they said that in the first place, they felt a quaking and heard a great noise. And after that, they heard a sound as of a great multitude saying, "Let us remove hence." So now you got, the sound of a great multitude. This pretty much represents Yahweh speaking. And he said, "Let us remove hence." Remember in the beginning, let us make man in our own image. Now he's saying, let us remove hence. Let us remove from the temple. But what is still more terrible, there was one Jesus, the son of Ananus, a plebeian and a husbandman, who 4 years before the war began, and at a time when the city was at great peace and prosperity, right? So remember, when they say peace, there will be great war, right? So at this time, the city was in great peace. So this is why it was so unheard of the disciples to hear of wars and rumors of wars, because before 4 years before the for the War of the Jews began, which will be like 62 A.D., 4 years before it began, Jerusalem and Rome was at peace, a time of peace. So hearing about wars and rumors of wars would have threw everything off because they was living in peace at the time. So now, great peace and prosperity came to that feast whereupon our custom for everyone to make tabernacles to God in the temple. So what is this? This is the Feast of Tabernacles, right? This is the Feast of Tabernacles. Notice he's doing everything. Every sign that occurred was around a feast. People think feasts are to be taken literal about food and stuff. If you look up the word feast and all that stuff, they were time markers. All of these things represented something. The feast was allegorical in nature because it represented a different judgment that Christ was going to bring, or a different movement of Christ from his death to his resurrection to his final judgment against Jerusalem. All of the feasts represented something. So the gathering was for the people to experience this all together. So now, the Feast of Tabernacles, right, began to on a sudden to cry aloud. A voice from the east, a voice from the west, a voice from the four winds, a voice against Jerusalem and the holy house. So now this man is prophesying the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple. A voice against the bridegrooms and the brides, and a voice against the whole people. This was his cry, and he went about day and night in all the lanes of the city. However, certain of the most eminent among the populace had great indignation at this dire cry of his, and took up the man and gave him a great number of severe stripes. Yet did not he either say anything for himself or anything peculiar to those that chastised him, but still went on with the same words which he cried before. Hereupon our rulers, supposing as the case proved to be, that this was a sort of divine fury in the man, brought him to the Roman procurator, where he was whipped till his bones were laid bare. Yet he did not make any supplication for himself, nor shed any tears, but turning his voice to the most lamentable tone possible. At every stroke of the whip, his answer was, "Woe, woe to Jerusalem!" And when Albinus, for he was then our procurator, asked him who he was and whence he came, and why he uttered such words, he made no manner of reply to what he said, but still did not leave off this melancholy ditty, till Albinus took him to be a madman and dismissed him. Now, during all that time that passed before the war began, this man did not go near any of the citizens, nor was seen by them while he said so. But he every day uttered these lamentable words as if there were premeditated vow. Woe, woe to Jerusalem! Nor did he give ill words to any of those that beat him every day, nor good words to those that gave him food. But this was his reply to all men, and indeed no other than a melancholy presage of what was to come. This cry was the loudest at the festivals, and he continued this ditty for 7 years and 5 months, without growing hoarse or being tired therewith, until the very time that he saw his presage in earnest fulfilled in our siege. This is first century. When it ceased, for he as he was going around upon the wall, he cried out with the utmost force, "Woe, woe to the city again, and to the people, and to the holy house." And just as he added that last word, "Woe, woe to myself also," there came a stone out of one of the engines and smote him and killed him immediately. And as he was uttering that very same presages, he gave up the ghost. So now, look at all of these signs that happened in the first century about Jerusalem being destroyed. And people want you to think that Christ was talking about what's happening in America today. So forget all of these wonderful works that was given to Jerusalem about its final destruction. Forget all of that stuff. Christ is really talking about today. Well, I want to make just a few more correlations. Let's see if we can find just a few more correlations since we're talking about the history of the Jews. Let's see if we can just make a few more correlations, right? Let's see if we can find anything. Let's say in the book of Revelation, right? Let's look in the book of Revelation. Let's see. The book of Revelation. What did they say about the talent? That a stone fell by the weight of a talent, right? What was that at? Let me see here. What was that at? The stone. Let me see if I can just Google that real fast. A stone fell about the weight of a talent. I know it's in the book of Revelation. Was that it? Revelation 16:21. Okay. So let's go to Revelation 16:21. Okay, right there. That's it. All right. Let's see if I can find it real fast. And like I said, I didn't have this ready, but let's see if I can actually find it. In fact, this is what I'm going to do right here because I actually have created a PDF. Let's see if I got that in the PDF. Bible. Let's see here. AOSD. Where we at? Okay, I don't got it right there. So give me 1 second to go get it out of my email. This is a PDF that I created. If anybody wants the PDF, just let me know. I will definitely send you over this 900 page PDF. And I know I got it in my PDF. So give me 1 second to pull it up. Internet's working kind of slow because of the weather that we're having. All right, let's see here. Let me download it. Shouldn't take that long to download. Okay. All right, let's see here now. Okay, there we go, right there. So this is the PDF that I created. Once again, if you want it, it's 842 pages, right? Oh, how I prove without a shadow of a doubt that the Bible was fulfilled first century. So we're gonna. I mean, you can go through some of this information. I pulled this from different preterist websites and put it all under one umbrella, and I actually added my own information also. So now let's see here. Sorry, let me go back to the table of contents. Let's see here. Look at all these prophecies I got right here. Yeah, I don't want to talk about the resurrection from the dead. All right, I'm looking for a specific thing, and once I see it, once I find it, you guys will see. All right, this is about the war of the Jews, lamentation of Josephus. And I mean, it's so much full of information. Let's see here. That's not it. Uh, More information. This actually shows Matthew 24 getting broke down with the history of it. You see the Matthew 24, then you got it the fulfillment in Josephus. But uh, I'm trying to find something real fast. I want to show you some of the things in the book of Revelation found in the book of Josephus. Because we know that Revelation itself was a vision, right? But it's some historical backing behind it. I should be pretty close. Okay, that was the 10 horns that went together. All right, let's see here. All right, give me one. It's going to be around here somewhere. And I know I should have been ready. Okay, see right here. We got the seven bowls right here. Now let me find the way of the talent right here. It's around here. And I put times in this. It took me a little bit time to make all of this to work. All right, let's see here. War of the Jews. They got the earthquakes. We got the sixth trumpet here. What else we got here? We got Revelation 11 and 17, but I'm looking for Revelation 16. Got the body, got the blood, got the this and this and that last. Sorry about that. I'm just gonna find something because I can't find what I was looking for. I thought it was somewhere around here, which is it's in the PDF. We got the 1 hour with the beast. 1 hour mark of the beast, right hand. Uh, all right, I'm just gonna pull something in, y'all. Let's go to Revelation 17 and 12. Let's just go there. Um, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet, but receive power as king 1 hour with the beast. They have one mind, and they shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is the Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and the chosen and faithful. So this is Revelation 17, 12 through 17. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, thou shalt hate the whore, and thou shalt make her desolate and naked, and shalt eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God had put it in their heart to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. So once you go into the works of Flavius Josephus, which is chapter 20, dealing with the war of the Jews, right? Um, this is section 2. And in the meantime, the people of Damascus, when they were informed of the destruction of the Romans, set about the slaughter of those Jews that were among them, right? Um, and as they had already cooped up together in the place of public exercises, which they had done out of the suspicion they had on of them, they thought they should meet with no difficulty in the attempt. Yet did they distrust their own wives, which was almost all of them addicted to the Jewish religion, on which account it was if their greatest concern was how they might conceal these things from them. So here we go right here. So they came upon the Jews and cut their throats, as being in a narrow place, and numbered 10,000, all of them unarmed, and this is in 1 hour's time, without anybody to disturb them. But as to those who pursued after Cestius, when they were turned back to Jerusalem, they overbore some of those that favored the Romans by violence, and some of them persuaded by entreaties to join them, and got together a great number of those in the temples, and appointed, here we go right here, and appointed a great many generals for the war. So listen, this is what Josephus recorded. Now look at how many generals was appointed for the war dealing with the last war of the Jews in Rome, right? You got one, Joseph, the son of Gorion; two, Ananus, the high priest; three, Jesus, the son of Saphias, one of the high priests; four, Eleazar, the son of Anias, the high priest. 5. Niger, then the governor of Idumea. 6. Joseph, the son of Simeon, was sent as general to Jericho. 7. Manasseh to Perea. 8. John, the escu, to the toparchy of Thamna. 9. John, the son of Matthias, who was made governor of the toparchies. And 10. Josephus, the son of Matthias. So you literally have 10 generals, and I skipped over some of these names because some of these names are added into other people. So these wasn't like the generals added, but you literally have 10 generals, 10 people that was given power for almost an hour. So you got 10 people, 10 generals given power to go out Jerusalem and the land of Canaan and all that stuff to create a war and stuff and to fight. So, I mean, you got a correlation right there. And then, I mean, you can find it on right here when, what's it? When it said Jerusalem was broken down into three people, right? Right here, the seventh bowl, the great city was divided into three parts, and great Babylon came into remembrance before God and gave the couple the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. So you go down, you got the dividing of Jerusalem, right? Or was it at? What's the division right here? Was it at? Sorry, and this is gonna be the last one because, like I said, if you want the PDF, I'll send it to you. So let me find it when they was divided into three factions. Mm, it's got to be up here. Let's see. That's why I don't like having it like I didn't have it straight. Because it's right here. Cities of nation fell, Galilee, Perea, and Judea. Jerusalem divided. So that must have been the three nations right there. Galilee, Perea, and Judea. But it said it's supposed to be three factions. It said something about three factions. I remember that. It called us the city. You got the city of horsemen right there, dealing with the four horsemen, because those horsemen were dismissed by Herod. Um Now, as to the country of Samaria, it lies between Judea and Galilee. It was three factions that they all broke into. Well, anyway, I don't want to keep going. I know it is here, but I just don't know exactly what. Oh, here you go, right here. Here you go. Uh, This is War of the Jews, chapter 5. When therefore Titus had marched over the desert which lies between Egypt and Syria, in the manner forementioned, he came to Caesarea, having resolved to set his forces in order at the place before he began the war. Nay, indeed, while he was assisting his father at Alexandria in settling that government which had been newly conferred upon them by God, it so happened that the sedition at Jerusalem was revived and parted into three factions. And as the vision said, the great city was divided into three parts. So, I mean, you can go through the history of the Jews, like Josephus, and you can actually go through and see where it intertwines with the Bible, right? You can see how everything goes together, proving that. Look, you got the sixth seal right there. When they were supposed to run into the rocks, right? And then here you got Josephus, so was the last hope of the tyrants, and crew robbers were with them, was in the caves and the caverns under the ground. For they were not able to lie hid either from God or from the Romans. So you got them hiding in the rock, right? Um, you got the blood of dead man and every living soul died in the sea, right? You got, and they were themselves a great, very great way along the banks of the river, and sustained the darts that were thrown at them, as well as the attack of the horsemen, who beat many of them and pushed them into the current. At which fight, hand to hand, 15,000 that were slain, while the number of those unwilling forced to leap into the Jordan was prodigious. Right. But now this destruction that fell upon the Jews, it was not inferior to any of the rest in itself. So did it still appear greater than it really was in this, because not only the whole country through which they fled was filled with slaughter, and Jordan could not be passed over by the reason of the dead bodies that were in it, but because the lake Asaphorites, or whatever that is, was also full of dead bodies that were carried down into the river. So you got dead bodies all over floating around. You got the blood floating around, and you got it right there. And it became as the blood of dead men. Every living soul died in the sea. And then you got when he said, hurt not the oil. You see what the priests and what they was doing with the oil during their war. You got you got the barley and the wheat. I mean, you got all of it pretty much here. You see, I went through like details to show you. Me and some of the other preterist brothers, we went through details to show how these things were actually found in the War of the Jews, dealing with Christ's prophecy, dealing with the Book of Revelation. I mean, it's all there. It's all there. And I have this PDF that's full of the information, right? So much information on it. So many prophecies and etc. I mean, you just got it right there. You see, it's very colorful and everything. But anyway, let's get off of that now. So now, let's get ready to finish up what I'm doing here. So we're finna get ready to finish up. So now, when you get to Luke 21, talking about the same thing. Remember, Matthew 24 said the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel. Luke 21, Luke reframed, called it something else. He said, Luke 21, verse 20. And when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, who was that army? The Roman armies. Then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So according to Luke, all things written, what was it written at? Torah and the Tanakh was to be fulfilled at that time. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And then as you go further down, right? Verse 27. And then they shall see the Son of Man coming in the cloud with power and great glory. Verse 32. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. So this is proving that the Bible was fulfilled in the first century. All prophecies had to be fulfilled in the first century. And you got Daniel coming through, dealing with Jerusalem, right? Being destroyed by the Roman army. Look at what he says. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy. So after the 70 weeks, no more vision, no more prophecies, no more biblical prophets, no more visions. Once again, no more visions, no more prophets, no more prophecy. So after this, there's no more biblical prophets left. There's no more biblical prophecies left. No more. It's over with. It's done. No more male prophets, no more female prophets. No more. The only thing we have now is just messages from the Most High, the way that He chooses to deliver them. There's no more prophets, no more prophecies, no more visions. Okay, that's just it. The 70 weeks ended it all. And that's why we could understand that everything was going to be fulfilled at that 70 weeks, because now everything was going to be sealed up, and a new way of doing things was going to be brought by. And let me show you the new way. That would be the new way to do things would be John 20 and 29. Jesus said unto him, which was Thomas, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that do not that have not seen and yet have believed. So he was going to quit showing signs. He was going to no more prophets, no more visions, because now blessed will be the people who have not seen but still believe. Blessed is the people who only believe on the words. They don't have to physically see the prophets. They don't have to hear or go through prophecies. They don't have to see visions no more, because the people who just have faith now is blessed. And in the book of Revelation, hold on, let's see here. Let's see here. Go to Revelation 14:13. And I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, write, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. So he said, whoever died, because this shows you once again, this ain't about not dying physically. And Revelation wasn't about the end of the so-called world, because if it was about the end of the world, how could anybody else die in the Lord if the end of the world gives you everlasting life? There was no more dying in the Lord, so it wasn't talking about physical life anyway. It's talking about spiritual life, but about everlasting spiritual life, not everlasting physical life. But now, and I heard a voice from heaven saying unto me, write, blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth. Yea, said the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. So it always gave a message of, now you have faith, and that faith will give you your rewards, not only on earth, but when you die and go into the other realm, when your spirit is there, you will rest from your labors, and all of your works will follow you into the other realm. You will rest with the Lord, in the Lord, which is the definition of the true Sabbath, not the seventh day that people are doing, which was an old covenant thing. Now, in the new covenant, the rest is in the Lord, which is the true fulfillment of it. So, while you're doing your strings and all your days, that's not what the Bible was teaching. But now we see, blessed are they who have not seen but still believe, and blessed are they who still believe and they die while still believing. Their works will follow them into the afterlife, into the next realm. They will rest from their labors. So hopefully this have showed the Bible has been fulfilled. An hour and 48 minutes. So this is Elvin Israel, one of the instructors of RPK. You see, while we concentrate on resurrection, prophecy, and kingdom, because if you know those three tenets, you will know the Bible. There's no need to let anyone scare you that this Christ is coming back with wrath and to kill anybody. Quit letting people tell you that Christ is going to come, make everything perfect, and you finna get slaves. I mean, quit telling you that. How is it blesses those who do not, who have not seen but still believe, and then physical Christ is going to come back? It's redundant. It defeats its purpose. Quit letting these people tell you that you're not in the new covenant. Everything was fulfilled when Rome was surrounded by, when Jerusalem was surrounded by Rome and destroyed. There was the fulfillment of every prophecy. That's what Luke 21:20 through 22 actually say. Quit letting people teach you out of it. because you're reading it with your mind. It's resonated. It says what it says. It means what it means. Quit letting people teach you out of it, because once they teach you out of it, now you're into this false hope. Now you're into this. I'm doing the law of Moses again. So now you got to stick by this camp. You got to stick by this congregation, right? Now you got to do this more this burden stuff, right? Now you got to do the Sabbath day. Now you got to wear your fringes. Now you got to make up high holy days. Now you got to do feast days that ain't even real feast days, or you're doing them incorrectly and you're not even following the moon and the sun right. But now you can only do it if you pay $300-400 to a camp and attend their services. Now you got to pay the camps and these churches tithes and stuff. So you don't have freedom, you don't have the liberty, you don't have the love, you can't do the charity, you can't do your true mission, because you're believing that any day now something's going to happen that happened thousands of years ago. Get out of the mind of waiting and hoping and get into the mind of fulfillment, so you can do your true purpose on earth. Love the Father above all. Love your neighbors as Christ loved the disciples. Pick up your cross. Carry the burden of cross. Understand that you're going to be tried through the fire. Pray to the Father. Anything that you ask in the Messiah's name, He will give if you're faithful and true and you have faith. Anything in faith is faithful. Anything outside of faith is sinful. I mean, do this work. Help the widows. Help the hungry. Help the naked. The work that Christ told us to do. Change your mindset. Have a renewed mind, a renewed spirit. Be a new creation. Be a new people, a spiritual people. Show people the correct way to act and interact with each other. Quit spewing hatred, isolation. You're not going to be a special person because of your skin color or your bloodline. The Father ain't worried about that. You're a special person because you're peculiar unto Him, because you do the things that He tell you to do. In 1 John 3, He tells you this is the things that He wants you to love each other, and for you to believe on the Son, and for you to worship the Father. That's what He wants. He don't want you worried about 613 things. He don't want you to worry about curses that you're not under. That's not the gospel. That's not what He wants you to teach. If you're teaching something you don't see the disciples teach, then you're off. You're wrong. You don't teach nationality. Disciples didn't go around teaching nationalities. They didn't go around being all puffed up for being Israel. They did not do none of that. They did not teach that Christ is going to come back a long time in our future and give us slaves and all of that stuff. They didn't teach that the white people was Edomites. They didn't teach none of that. All of this stuff was created by American Jews because they don't know history, nor the Bible, nor they care, because they have all been popped up off of their knowledge. And they feel like since they have been blessed with a congregation, instead of doing right and getting the congregation right, they have got the congregation to believe that they are have some type of superiority because they was out there and able to word words a certain way and to trick people. And those people brought other people in to get tricked. And just because you have a great number of people, the Most High must be following them. I mean, it's been plenty of times in scriptures where it was just a few people who did great things. John the Baptist was by himself until he got disciples. Christ was by himself until he got disciples. You know what I'm saying? And they started off as a small number and expanded and expounded. So that don't mean you're being blessed by the Lord because you got a great following. It just means that you're good with your words and you can trick a lot of people, because our people are spiritual by nature. So anything they feel is pleasing to the Most High or our God, they're gonna do it. So if you wind them over with words because they're in adversity and you're telling them that adversity is based off of some uh, curses, then they're going to gravitate to you because they believe that you know the correct answer on how to please the Lord. And they would throw away all of their logic mindset. They would throw away all rationale and follow you because they feel like you have a one up on knowledge because you put together a couple people and was able to persuade them that you know the truth. So I am done with all of that. Um, Hopefully you see the fulfillment now. We could also went through. Uh, I guess we can do a quick run real fast. Dealing with fulfillment, right? We could also go through Daniel 7, dealing with the four beasts, right? Daniel only saw four beasts, right? Only four. The first, Babylon. Uh, the second, Medo Persia. The third, Greece. The fourth, Rome. Then the fulfillment of the Bible. This is why Christ was able to tell everybody the Bible was going to be fulfilled during his time period, right? Christ was able to tell everyone the fulfillment of the Bible of every prophecy was going to be during his time period because he was born under the fourth beast, right? He was born under the Roman Empire, under the fourth beast. And under the fourth beast, what was going to happen? The thrones were going to be cast down, uh, the judgment was going to be set, and the books were going to be open. All of this was going to happen under the fourth beast, which was Rome. This is why Christ came under the fourth beast. How do we know? Uh, let's see here. How do we know? Let's see here. We go to Galatians 4 and 4. Galatians 4 and 4. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoptions of sons. So, according to this, Christ came at the fullness of the time. If something full, nothing else can get inside of it. So Christ was born at the fullness of time. You go to Mark 1. Let's see here. Mark 1:15. 14. Now after that, John was put into prison. Jesus came into Galilee preaching the gospel of the kingdom of God and saying, the time is fulfilled and the kingdom of God is at hand. Repent ye and believe the gospel. When he said the time is fulfilled, what time was he talking about was fulfilled? When Paul said that he was born at the fullness of time, what fullness of time? See, they keep talking about time, keep telling them these ancient Jews would have understand what was being said. The old covenant was going to leave, the new covenant was coming. The end of every prophecy was almost over with. That's what they're saying. When the fullness of time came, when the time is fulfilled, it's all saying the same exact thing, just different ways. All of this happened under the fourth beast, which was the Roman Empire. The Bible does not go past Rome. It does not go past the Roman Empire because the Roman Empire was when Christ was going to get his kingdom. It's the time period that the Father chose for the Son to get everything promised to him, not me or you. So no, we're not living under the Rome, right? Not so. I mean, let's even because we got to use some of the common sense, and I hate when people try to make the Bible say something that it's not. Okay, look here. When was Rome destroyed? 476 AD. The city of Rome finally failed in 476 AD. So by default, anything in the Bible, you cannot take past 476 AD because in 476 AD, Rome was destroyed. Not no, well, we're in America and America's is Rome and look at our government. Our government is the. No, it's not. No, it's not. Similar does not mean exact. Borrowed don't mean exact. These were real empires. In Daniel, it was a real empire, a real Babylonian empire, a real Mede Persian empire, a real Grecian empire, a real Roman empire, not a similar Roman empire, a similar Greek. No, not similar. It was the real deal, Holyfield, the exact one. So even if you don't want to believe the Bible was fulfilled first century around 70 AD, you can't take it past 476 AD because that is when Rome finally fell, right? That is when Rome finally fell. And Josephus already told you that Rome was the fulfillment of the prophecy. So Rome had to be the fourth beast. Had to be the fourth beast. And what was said about the fourth beast? Daniel 7. I might be Daniel 9. No, Daniel 2. Sorry, Daniel 2. I'll make a secret reveal. The God of heaven has given thee a kingdom. It was actually Daniel 7, but let's see here. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom. Which king? The fourth kingdom, right? The Roman kingdom. And the fourth kingdom, right there, which would be the fourth beast, which was the Roman kingdom. And in these days, the king and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, which was what Christ did, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall be broke into pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Then you have people saying, where that kingdom at right now? Where's the kingdom that Christ set up if all things is fulfilled? Well, you have the understanding of the kingdom. Christ said in uh, Luke 17 and 20 and 21. And when he was demanded of the Pharisees, when the kingdom of God shall come, see, they understood that they was under the Roman Empire. They understood that the kingdom of God was coming their generation. They understood this because Daniel said, under the fourth beast, the kingdom of God, the God of heaven is going to set up a kingdom. So now, the Pharisees know these prophecies. You got to understand that this guy is saying he's the Messiah. So if he's the Messiah, according to Daniel, the Messiah gets the kingdom. So according to Daniel, the kingdom has to be set up during our time period because this guy is saying he's the Messiah. So now we're going to ask him, when is that kingdom that Daniel prophesied about going to be set up? Since you are the Messiah, you are the recipient of the kingdom. When is it going to be set up? So look, as Christ taught them the true meaning of the kingdom that Daniel was talking about. He answered them and said, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation, neither shall they say, lo here or lo there. For behold, the kingdom of God is within you. See, they wasn't ready to hear that. That wasn't something the Pharisees was wanting to hear. They didn't want to hear about this spiritual kingdom that's on the inside of them. No, they wanted something more, a little bit more carnal, right? So, but that's just it right there. They're evoking the prophecy of Daniel. So you got all of this stuff that was happening during Daniel, right? Daniel gives the timeline that the fourth beast, Rome, was when everything was going to end. Christ was born under the fourth beast. Who else was born under the fourth beast? You got Malachi, right? Malachi chapter 4. Well, you got three right here. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. Once again, it shows you that the action was the Lord going into the temple to receive his kingdom. He wasn't going to to earth or America in the future. He was going into the temple. Daniel 7 said he went into the Ancient of Days, whose throne was inside of the temple. Malachi got him going in the temple. The coming was him going or coming into the temple as a king, not him coming down to planet Earth. It never was that. The Roman Catholic Church started that, and we picked it up in tradition. But Matthew 4, right? Malachi 4, sorry. I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming and great and dreadful day of the Lord. That was the final coming and dreadful day of the Lord. He was supposed to send Elijah. And what did Christ say? The Elijah is John the Baptist. So John the Baptist came under the Roman Empire. That Elijah came under the Roman Empire. That Christ came under the fourth beast under the Roman Empire. The temple and the sanctuary was destroyed under the fourth beast under the Roman Empire. The Holy Spirit was given back to society under the fourth beast under the Roman Empire. Israel itself as a covenantal people only about their bloodline was taken away under the Roman Empire. Now, anybody who believed on Christ was part of the adoption, not just those that came out of Jacob. Now, all of this happened during the Roman Empire during the fourth beast. As it was said during the fourth beast, the God in heaven was going to set up a kingdom which should never be destroyed. Woe and behold, the things that Christ did in the first century has never been destroyed yet. So, I mean, we don't have to go through any much anymore. We see that the Bible fulfillment was first century. Everything points to first century. So, thank you all for listening in. This is Elvin Israel from the RPK. RPK, Resurrection, Prophecy, and Kingdom. All you got to do is type in RPK and then the words Resurrection, Prophecy, and Kingdom. You'll see the RPK logo pop up. I ask you to please hit the subscribe button and then the bell so you can see the new videos that we have. See it right there. And we're bringing more and more weekly. 52 subscribers, we need a whole lot more. So please share the video. Peace, 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 brother Michael. Be safe out there, my brother. Uh, both brother Michaels. So thank y'all for listening in. But I have showed without a shadow of a doubt, and many people is not going to like it. Oh yeah, you can also go to my personal channel, AOSD Chandler. Well, I have 203 subscribers now. Thank you all for listening. I'm waiting to get in the thousands, but thank you. And you see that I have a plethora of videos that you can go through. A plethora of videos breaking down a lot of biblical information, right? But and I have debates, right? Plenty of debates. We got a playlist right here. I got 31 debates, right? And of the debates, I got one with brother Michael Holloway about the true meaning of the resurrection. Because I was taking it from the Hebraic mindset, he was taking it from the church father Grecian mindset. You see right here, we got a debate. Me and Mr. Bell, my mentor, we got a debate against Ronald Dalton, who was the creator of the book from Hebrews to Negroes, and Judah Mack. If y'all don't know who Judah Mack is, he came out of IUIC, I believe. But we had a debate about um, whether or not the Bible has been fulfilled or not. In fact, what I can do right now, I can go ahead and copy that and share it on my Facebook channel right now if y'all want to check it out. But the Bible itself has been fulfilled. First century. I mean, you can't deal with what you can't get away with it. I have proved time and time again today with realistic facts, not no fairy tale stuff. Realistic facts, right? I pull from history. Um, After I pulled out the Bible and etc. So I love you all. Thank you all for listening in. This is Elvin Israel from RPK, Resurrection, Prophecy, and Kingdom. Uh, Thank you all. Have a blessed day. Shalom.